Welcome back to another episode of the Higher Alignment Podcast, where high performers come to grow without stress, shame, or burning out. I'm Minh-Thu Lam, and I'm here to help you work smarter, live fuller, and feel like yourself again. If you're tired of running on empty, book your complimentary assessment call at higheralignmentconsulting.com/program, and let's figure out what's draining your energy and what you can do to start feeling happy and peaceful once again. You can find the link in the show notes. Now let's get into the episode. So today I want to answer a question that actually came in from a colleague of mine's client, Mr. Billy Zarillo. I was on his podcast a little while ago, and he had his clients write in and ask questions. And so one of the questions that was asked was, why do boundaries still feel selfish to me even though I need them? And I thought it was great to just do an episode on this question alone because I think it happens to so many of us. Like, boundaries has really become this hot topic slash buzzword, which is interesting because the fact that we need to talk about it so much shows how much there is a lack of it, which is wild when you think about it. And so I was just kind of thinking before I started recording about like why that is. And I think we have to look back to the fact that we haven't been taught, many of us, to have boundaries um, on a societal level. And then even as, children and things, and not because our parents don't want us to have boundaries. I think every parent knows that it's important for their kids to know what they're saying no to and to be able to, use that word. But, you know, a lot of us are just taught to people please and to, help everybody and to always be there for everyone and be willing to give someone else the shirt off our back. And like, these are nice things we can do for people, but it's gotten so out of context to the point where a lot of us will just give up our entire like well-being and what makes us happy for the satisfaction of someone else, right? And so when we go back to the question of why do boundaries feel so selfish, even though I know I need them, well, let's start at the fact that, like what I just said, if you've never made decisions from a place of putting yourself first, that's going to be awkward and scary. Okay. Like a boundary is essentially what am I okay with? What makes me feel safe? What makes me feel secure? What makes me whatever you want? You can set a boundary around anything. What makes me happy? What makes me peaceful? But I think at the core of it, most of us just want to do the things that feel safe and secure to us, right? And so a lot of us haven't really been taught from that standpoint. We've been taught what we need to do to please those around us, right? And so if we go to childhood, you know, we're not taught to be like, okay, you do what you want to do, honey, that makes you feel good. We, through behavior, through action, through reinforcement from our caregivers, are very quickly taught what is acceptable in our household to receive love and connection. Okay. So, in my home, it was very much, doing well in school and doing good at whatever I was in, right? And making sure I was always well spoken and, just represented the family properly, right? And it's a very big thing in Asian households, like no shame on the family type thing. And so like presenting and carrying yourself a certain way. And these are all good traits, by the way. I'm not downplaying like, oh, your kids don't need to like represent your family well. That's not what I'm saying. But from a behavioral standpoint, what we're learning is I just need to fall in line with what my family structure deems as acceptable. And if I do that, then I will receive connection and love. Okay, cool. But then what happens is we take that same pattern of association and now apply it to everything else in our life. Okay. So I need to do everything my employer says, no matter what, to just make sure I am towing the company line and doing whatever they need. So that means I will answer my emails while I'm on vacation. That means I will answer emails and take phone calls at 8 o'clock at night. That means I will work weekends for the sake of the company, right? And disclaimer, if that makes you happy to do those things, then by all means, rock out. You know what I mean? Like if that makes you happy, then don't take this information towards that. Maybe the boundary is towards a partner, right? Maybe instead of I'll just work whenever they want me to, maybe it's like I'll do whatever he wants me to. I will let him talk to me however he wants to. I will let him decide what we're always doing and control everything about our relationship, right? Like it can show up in multiple different ways. So when I talk about going back to childhood and this skill set of making decisions with yourself in like at the forefront, it's just not something we're taught to do. Okay. And again, no fault to our parents, anything like that. It's just a behavior that we learn. Okay. But then as we become adults, we now need to know what those boundaries are for us, because if we don't, well, we end up burnt out, overwhelmed, upset, anxious, unhappy, disconnected, depressed. This is the result of when we don't have boundaries set in place for what we want our life to look like, right? And so that's why it feels selfish. That's the first part, is just because when you don't have a skill set of knowing how to do that, society has brainwashed us to believe that if we do things for ourselves, that we are selfish, right? And like, there's also so many like examples of how the media does that. Like, if you have a different opinion from someone, all of a sudden cancel that person. We can't have a conversation with them. They're the enemy. You're this political party. You're this stance on the vaccine. You believe in these, holidays, but like whatever. Like there's just so many things that they've divided us on, right? And it comes from a standpoint where it's like, well, if you don't do this for the other person, then you're selfish, right? Like that was a big thing they used during the COVID era, right? Like I'm talking about it like it was years ago, but during COVID, that's what they did, right? If you don't stay inside, you're being selfish. If you don't get this, you're being selfish. Like, I mean, like it was completely ridiculous. They weren't talking about the fact that like if we weren't like talking with our friends and family, that what that was doing by separating us, by keeping us apart. Like people had family members that died in the hospital and they couldn't even go see them. Like how awful is that for a family, right? I just went on a tangent, guys. Sorry. Either way, I'm just saying the media does a really good job of making us feel like we need to do things for everybody else before ourselves. Like they have trained us to a T to put ourselves last. Okay. And if I'm going to go on another tangent, the reason they do that is because we're easier to control. All right, if you're a burnt out executive or high performer, chances are you're on a 3 to 4 month cycle of burnout, meaning the first few months, you're high energy, productive, and making it happen. And then once that third or fourth month sets in, you're exhausted, irritable, snappy, and ready to give it all up. Now, there are two main reasons you get stuck in this cycle that no one talks about when it comes to stress management information out there. So I've put this together in a short video called The Real Reason You're Burnt Out. I put it in the show note links, so take the 12 minutes to watch this video and let this be the first step to you getting off this hamster wheel of burnout. All right, guys, back to the episode. Right? When we are not empowered, when we're burnt out, when we're exhausted, when we're just defeated, we are way easier to control because we're in survival mode. We're not thinking clearly. We're not seeing big picture. We're not problem solving. We're easier to manipulate and control and program in this burnt out, dysregulated state. So it's in their best interest to push a narrative of not taking care of yourself first, of not setting boundaries, because that is selfish. Okay. So along with the fact that we don't really know how to do this, we have to learn this as we get older, we're also being inundated with a world that's pushing this whole selfish narrative, and no one wants to be selfish. Okay. And then on that same token, the word selfish has gotten such a negative connotation because of that, right? Like they've turned this word selfish into something that's just, oh my God, just awful, right? When it doesn't even have to be selfish. It's just taking care of yourself. It's just honoring your needs. It's just looking after you. And if we use that same context towards a child, no one would think that's selfish. I'm going to make the best decision for little Johnny. What's the best thing for Johnny? Let's make, like, In that way, it all makes sense. Okay, cool. But then again, we need to learn how to do that for ourselves and understand that when we take care of ourselves, we are better for everybody else, right? Like my clients, 10 out of 10, when they come through my program, not only do they feel better for themselves, they're a better husband, wife, parent, leader, coworker, friend, daughter, son, whatever. They are better for everybody else because they've taken the time to take care of them. Okay? So that's the first thing is we need to like debunk this whole selfish thing. Okay? Now let's talk about boundaries a little bit. The misconception around boundaries is that it has to do with what someone else is going to do. Okay? So I'm not going to answer emails past 6 p.m. That's the boundary I've set in place. And then what happens? My boss starts emailing me at 6:30. Email, email, email. And I go, "Oh my god, he's violating my boundaries. Like why isn't he listening to me? I told him I wasn't going to answer emails after 6 p.m. and he's emailing me. He broke my boundary." The boundary is about what you will do, not the other person. So when you said, I am not answering emails past 6 p.m., guess who is responsible for upholding that boundary? You. Because the boundary wasn't, my boss isn't going to email me past 6 p.m. The boundary was, I am not going to answer emails past 6 p.m. See what I did there? So then when he emails and I eventually give in, guess who violated the boundary? Me. Me. Right? And then, but what most of us do is we sit and complain about the other person and think that it's their fault because they put you into this position. You can't control another person. Like, no boundary is based around the other person. And if you're creating boundaries that way, then that's ridiculous because we can't control other people. We will never be able to. So if you're creating boundaries, assuming the other person is going to always uphold them, then that's your first mistake, right? The boundary is about you. So if we really want to honor our boundaries and we want to get better of this skill set of doing that, we can only hold ourselves accountable. And the good thing about that is you have power over you. You don't have power over your boss. You don't have power over your spouse. Now, if the other person on the other end keeps pushing that and keeps pushing you to that point, then you have a decision to make, right? Like if I said I'm not going to answer emails past 6 and every day he still sends them at 6:30 or 7 expecting an answer, right? It's one thing if I just let it be and then he's like, okay, well, it was fine if you responded the next day anyways. It's not a big deal. I was working late. You can deal with it tomorrow. It's okay. Well, then it's not the big deal. Let it slide. Like you didn't answer it. Cool. You honored your boundary. If he keeps doing it every day, expecting you to get back to him after 6, well, then this is where you have to make a decision. You've already decided I'm not doing it. And if he keeps doing it, now it's up to them to decide whether they're going to keep doing it or they're going to force you out. If they're going to like cause issues and say you have to start responding at emails after 6, you're going to be fired. Like now we're pushing you into position to really see what's in alignment here, right? But that's what boundaries are supposed to do. Boundaries are supposed to set a parameter of what you are willing or not willing to put up with. And then when they start to get pushed, that's where you get to make the decision. I'm out. Or, wow, I stuck to my boundary and they changed their behavior and they honored it. Great. Right? This is where we force the hand of seeing what the situation is going to be. But if we never set the boundary, if we don't ever say, if we just go, oh, okay, I'll just do what he wants. Like I'll just email him back. Like it's not a big deal. All that's going to do is build up resentment. You are going to become resentful of your boss. You're going to become resentful of your job. You're going to actually probably start to resent yourself as well too, because you're the one who's allowing this behavior to slide. Right? So when it comes to that whole selfish aspect, like there's actually been studies done that say people who hold their boundaries are more likely to get promoted because people trust exactly what they get out of that person. right? When someone honors their boundaries, sticks to their word, it shows a high level of integrity. And so that they can be trusted in higher positions because they know that when that person gets put in an awkward conversation or confrontation with a competitor or a client or whatever, they know that they're going to stick to what they've adhered to what their boundaries are, to toe the company line or whatever the case is, right? And even just from a respect standpoint, like I can tell when I can walk all over someone, okay? And when that happens, I immediately know where they sit on my rank, right? And not from like a human level. Like I respect everybody, but like, oh wow, like you're someone to like, yeah, I need to watch you in like a I can't trust you, or I need to like watch you in like I need to like admire you and peep your game and learn from you. You know what I mean? Like you can tell that based on what someone is willing to say yes or no to, right? Someone who can say no to something, even when if it's not that bad, like someone who can say no to something that is like a lot of people would just be like, okay, I'll deal with it. But they're like, yeah, no. And they do it in a very grounded and sound way. That immediately makes me perk up around that person. That immediately makes me go, okay, I need to see what's up here. Like this person is a different breed. They got something special about them for them to be able just to know like that. Right. So if you are having a hard time setting boundaries because they still feel selfish to you, what I would advise you do is start small. Okay. Don't start with big boundaries, even though you might know you need to put those in place. Don't start with some big like, I'm not, maybe the answering emails past 6 p.m. is a big boundary for you, right? Maybe it's like, wow, that's just like way too much. I'm not sure if I'm ready to do that because you're normally working till 8 right now. Maybe that's too big, right? The boundary could be something as simple as like, I'm actually going to not take emails during my lunch hour, right? Something more palatable. I usually take emails all day long. I'm always in front of my computer, but now between 11 or between 12 and 1, I'm not going to answer my emails. That's something much more palatable because you have the whole morning to answer the emails and you still have a whole afternoon after to get to them, but you're at least giving yourself 1 hour in the middle where you've chosen to say no and choose yourself. Okay? Start in little situations like that. In a relationship, maybe a boundary for you is I'm trying to think of something here. Like I will not maybe it's like I will not uh sweep things under the rug. Okay? Maybe your boundary is like when you and your partner have a disagreement, your boundary is we need to talk about it within 24 hours. Okay? Not everyone's ready to deal with conflict on the spot. So I'm just using an example. Maybe it's like you want to deal with it right away. Your partner often wants to sweep it under the rug. So maybe your new boundary is going to be we need to when we have a big fight, when we have a big argument, we need to address this. I want to address this within 24 hours of you. Okay? Past 24 hours, I will not address it. Okay? That's a better way of wording it. So if you guys get in a fight, your rule is after 24 hours, like I'm not rehashing this, right? So that your partner can't like keep bringing up things from the past or whatever. I don't know if this is a great example, but this is what's coming to mind. So then your boundary can be that. So then if that's what a normal thing is you don't want to. This wasn't a good example, guys, and I'm doing this on a fly. Let me think of something better. Um, what's a better example? What's a better example? This is as raw as it gets, guys. I'm thinking on the spot. A boundary in a relationship. A boundary in a relationship. Okay, I got one. Maybe the boundary in the relationship is someone's mother. Okay, maybe you have a mother-in-law who's just really into your stuff all the time, and it's your partner's mom, so like they don't see a big deal, but she's calling every day, she's stopping by every weekend, and it's just maybe a little bit too much for you. Okay, so the boundary might not be, oh, I'm gonna cut her off altogether, we can't see her. The boundary might be like, hey, babe, like I know you want to spend time with your mom, and that's great. I need a little bit of space. So I'm only going to spend time with you guys once a week or once every 2 weeks instead. Maybe he likes to see her every weekend. You're like, I'm actually only going to spend time with you guys every 2 weeks. I would like the other weekends to be just us or for me and you, right? And or for me alone, for me to do something on my own, right? So instead of being like, I don't want to see her altogether, you could just be like, I'm just going to dial back slowly how much time I'm spending with them. So when it comes to setting boundaries, do it in a really palatable way. Maybe another boundary is first thing in the morning, instead of answering work calls right away as soon as you open your eyes, you set your boundary of like, I'm not going to start answering work stuff till 9 p.m. or 9 a.m., right? As soon as the phone calls, I don't answer it from bed. I'm going to give till 9 a.m. And once 9 a.m. hits, I'm full throttle, right? Like do it in bite-sized pieces. And as you do that, you're going to build up the muscle of being able to set boundaries. And so then when it comes to bigger things, like I'm done working at 6 p.m., hard stop, I'm not responding anything. Or, hey, I actually don't want to spend this much time with your family anymore. I'm like, it doesn't work for me. Like you can set that boundary for yourself without it feeling so threatening to your system, because your body has learned to naturally build up the skill set. Okay. So whatever the framework is, start with something small. Start with something small and then build up from there. And as you do it, it's going to become easier. Okay. So yes, so many people feel like setting boundaries is selfish, right? But it's just because it's something we're not familiar with. And the way you become familiar with it is you just start to do it, but do it in bite-sized pieces. Build up the skill, figure out what works for you, figure out the process of you upholding the boundary, not relying on someone else to do it. And as you do that, I promise you, it'll start to feel more comfortable and easier for you to execute. All right, guys, thanks for tuning into another episode of the Higher Alignment Podcast. If you got something out of this episode, I would ask that you please go subscribe and leave the podcast a 5-star review so that it can help find its way to other people who are having a hard time and need support. My mission in life is to help executives realize that you don't need to suffer in silence while still performing at a high level. I want to help free people of the heavy pressure they carry on a day-to-day basis, and having more people listen to this podcast will do just that. So wherever you listen to this, please go leave it a 5-star review, hit subscribe so you never miss another episode, and we'll see you in the next one.